Three suspects, military-grade weapons, coordinated breach pattern, the janitor muttered, while watching the chaos unfold at the security checkpoint. The TSA supervisor turned to tell the old man to evacuate, but the professionalism in his tactical assessment made him pause. "Sir, who exactly are you? From which city in the world are you watching this story today? If stories like this move you, consider subscribing to Unseen Legends for more tales of quiet heroes walking among us." It was 7:15 a.m. at Miami International Airport Terminal 3. Roberto Martinez pushed his cleaning cart past the security checkpoint, repeating the same routine he had followed for 8 years. At 62, gray-haired and always wearing his blue coveralls, Roberto was an invisible figure to passengers, just someone who cleaned corridors, emptied trash bins, and never made a sound. TSA Supervisor James Parker looked nervous that morning. New security protocols, staff shortages, and the intensity of holiday season traffic created a heavy burden on his shoulders. He was trying to manage the morning shift with 6 security agents when there should normally be 12. Just then, 3 men entered through Terminal 3's main entrance. Their movement style was attention-grabbing, very coordinated, very disciplined. They were trying to look like ordinary passengers, but for experienced eyes they suggested something different. Roberto stopped his mop. With 30 years of habit, he evaluated the men. The first one, 6'1" height, athletic build, slight bulge on his right shoulder, probably a concealed weapon. The second one was constantly scanning the environment, taking tactical positions. The third stayed behind the group, checking escape routes. Coordinated movement, Roberto muttered quietly to himself. Military trained, malicious intent. The TSA agents were busy with routine checks. X-ray machines were working. Metal detectors were making their normal sounds. No one had noticed that the 3 men were different. Roberto moved his cleaning cart closer to the security checkpoint. He took an observation position, but no one understood what he was doing. The janitor who had worked here for 8 years just seemed to be doing his job. The first man approached the metal detector. He pulled out what appeared to be a normal keychain from his pocket, but Roberto noticed the detail. The shape of the keyring, the arrangement of metal pieces. This wasn't an ordinary keychain. Plastic explosive trigger, Roberto analyzed, probably carrying C4 components concealed on his body. The second man put his bag on the X-ray machine. The TSA agent checked the images on the screen, but didn't see any danger. But Roberto was noticing different details. The internal structure of the bag, weight distribution, false compartments. At that moment, the third man made his move. At an unexpected moment, he made eye contact with the first man and gave a slight nod. Roberto understood this signal. The attack was beginning. Now, Roberto thought. He pulled his cleaning cart to a strategic position, reached for his radio, but didn't act yet. He needed to fully assess the situation. The first man passed through the metal detector. No alarm sounded because plastic components weren't detected. But Roberto could see the tension in the man's movements, the readiness in his finger positions, the eye scanning pattern. The second man took his bag. The TSA agent continued with routine checks, suspecting nothing. But Roberto could hear the sounds inside the bag. Metal pieces, slight rattles, components ready for assembly. The third man was still in line, but Roberto understood his real role. This man was the commander, coordinating the other 2, controlling the timing of the operation. 3 suspects, military-grade weapons, coordinated breach pattern. Roberto muttered, but his voice was low enough to be heard only by himself. TSA Supervisor Parker approached. He noticed Roberto's presence and frowned. "Hey Roberto, what are you doing here? Isn't it early for cleaning?" Roberto looked into the supervisor's eyes. The calm but determined expression he had developed when facing such situations for 30 years appeared on his face. "Supervisor Parker, there's a problem." "Problem? What problem?" "Those 3 men." Roberto turned his eyes to the suspects. "They're moving in coordination. They've had military training. They're carrying plastic explosives." The expression on Parker's face turned from surprise to anger. "Roberto, what are you saying? You're a janitor. Security matters don't concern you." At that moment, the first man made an unexpected move. He pulled out a small piece from his keychain, quickly assembled it, and a small but effective weapon appeared in his hand. The second man began pulling metal pieces from his bag and assembling them. "Gun, gun," the TSA agents shouted, but they were too late. The suspects had taken strategic positions. Passengers had panicked, and security protocols were beginning to collapse. Parker grabbed his radio. Emergence, armed suspects in Terminal 3. Call SWAT team, FBI, everyone. Roberto calmly pulled out a small bag from his cleaning cart. From inside he removed a different ID card, a special radio, and a compact weapon. The real identity he had hidden for 8 years was about to be revealed. Control, this is Agent Martinez. Roberto spoke into his radio, his voice now completely different. Code Black situation in Terminal 3. 3 terrorists. Coordinated attack. Immediate intervention required. Parker's eyes widened. Roberto, who are you? FBI Special Agent Roberto Martinez. The man showed his identification. Counter-Terrorism Unit. Undercover for 8 years. The suspects had taken position and begun taking passengers hostage. But Roberto was analyzing the situation. He noticed that the third man hadn't passed through the security checkpoint yet. This was their advantage. Parker, pull your personnel back, Roberto commanded. These men are professionals. They can't be stopped with civilian security procedures. Roberto began coordinating on his radio. Control, 1 suspect at Alpha Point, 2 suspects at Bravo Point. Charlie suspect, still outside the security line. Optimal timing for intervention is now. The airport security camera system began working according to Roberto's command. The corridors he had walked every day for 8 years, the areas he had cleaned, the secret passages he had learned were now turning into tactical advantages. Sniper position ready on upper floor, came a voice from the radio. Targets in sight. Wait, Roberto commanded. Risk of civilian casualties. Close intervention required. The first suspect began lining up passengers. The second suspect was creating a larger weapon by assembling the devices he had pulled from his bag. The third suspect had noticed Roberto. You, Janitor, come here, the third suspect shouted. Roberto raised his hands, continuing to act like an innocent janitor. But his steps were strategic, his position calculated. As he approached the third suspect, he secretly spoke into his radio. 3, 2, as Roberto neutralized the third suspect, the sniper team precisely targeted the other 2 suspects. The operation lasted 1.3 seconds. No civilians were harmed. Terminal 3 fell into silence. Passengers were in shock. TSA personnel were trying to make sense of it. Parker's mouth was left open. Roberto put away his ID card and weapon, straightened his janitor uniform again. Supervisor Parker will complete the report when the FBI arrives. Roberto, Agent Martinez. Have you been here for 8 years? Miami Airport is a critical transit point for international terrorist networks. Someone needed to be here. Parker looked around. Well, why did you work as a janitor? Roberto smiled slightly. Because no one sees the janitor. The best way to hide is to be visible. For 8 years, I learned every movement pattern in this terminal, identified every security gap, analyzed every potential threat. FBI teams began entering the terminal. Roberto greeted them, but his identity was now known. The 8-year undercover mission had ended. Agent Martinez, the FBI commander approached. Excellent work. This operation saved at least 200 lives. Roberto nodded. That was our mission, sir. Parker approached, still in shock. Roberto, I apologize. I realize I never really knew you. No problem, Parker. I wanted to remain unrecognized. But sometimes we need to reveal our true identity. The next day, life returned to normal at Miami Airport. But Roberto Martinez was no longer an undercover agent. His identity had been revealed. The mission was complete. TSA personnel looked at him with different eyes. Passengers had heard the story and respected him. But for Roberto, the most important thing was that the people he had protected for 8 years were safe. Sometimes the greatest heroes, Parker told his staff that day, are the quiet people who pass by us while cleaning. Sometimes the most extraordinary people do the most ordinary jobs. They are heroes who pass by us quietly, cleaning, never making a sound but protecting our country at all times. Roberto Martinez wanted to be known as just a janitor for 8 years. But true heroism is revealing your identity when needed and saving lives. Have you ever had someone you knew as ordinary turn out to have an extraordinary past? Share it with us in the comments. And if stories like this move you, subscribe to Unseen Legends to hear stories of quiet heroes living among us, because the next time you see someone working quietly, you might be looking at history itself. This story is a work of fiction created to honor the spirit of service and sacrifice. Any resemblance to actual persons or events is purely coincidental.